Tonight, the U.S. Supreme Court dealing a final blow to states trying to ban former President Trump from the ballot. In a unanimous decision, the justices effectively leaving it up to voters to decide if the former president returns to the White House. Mr. Trump praising today's ruling.
The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that.
The justices rejecting a Colorado state court's ruling finding Mr. Trump ineligible to be president under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, a largely untested clause of the Constitution passed after the Civil War, disqualifying those who engage in insurrection from holding public office again. An elections official in Maine and a judge in Illinois later doing the same, banning the Republican frontrunner from the ballot in those states in light of his actions on January 6. Today's ruling from the High Court now ending all similar efforts to disqualify Mr. Trump from the ballot.
While most states were thrilled to have me, there were some that didn't, and they didn't want that for political reasons.
The justices today saying that patchwork of different rulings across the country cannot stand, finding responsibility for enforcing Section 3 against federal office holders and candidates rests with Congress and not the states. But at the same time, the three liberal justices accusing their conservative colleagues of going too far by ruling Congress must enact new legislation in order to ban a presidential candidate. Writing, this ruling will make it harder to bar an oath-breaking insurrectionist from becoming president. Conservative Justice Barrett cautioning this court should turn the national temperature down, not up.
And Laura, the court didn't really address the question of what happened on January 6th and Mr. Trump's actions, which was really behind these moves to kick him off the ballot. But that's still going to come up.
Yes, Lester. The justices didn't have to confront that issue today, but must take it head on when they decide if Mr. Trump should be immune from prosecution in the special counsel's January 6th case. They hear that case next month, Lester.
All right, Laura Jarret, thank you. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.